I always imagined that once I landed in my 50s and 60s, that my life would be on a pretty even keel and I would have things figured out. But the fact is that life is unpredictable and obstacles happen at any age. And I think when obstacles happen when we're older, they seem harder to deal with. And I think part of that is because we think we're old and we just don't have enough time to make things right. In this video, I'd like to cover 7 strategies that I use that are rooted in the principles of Stoicism. And these strategies help me navigate through difficult situations and also help me overcome obstacles and potentially make them into opportunities. Hey everyone, welcome to Small Retired Life. I'm Raina, and on this channel I share the joys and the challenges of navigating through a retirement as a single gal. When I completed my contract position, about a week later, probably like mid-February, my mom passed away, and my sister and I had to go to Vancouver Island from Calgary to organize her funeral and deal with things because my dad was quite elderly and in long-term care by that time, and it was a stressful time. We got through that and came back to Calgary, and a couple of weeks later, the world shut down. COVID hit globally and everything just shut down. And as a result of that, I pretty much became retired because there was no way I could look for work at that point. Most employers were not hiring. The world was at a standstill. Later on in 2020, around September, my dad passed away. So my sister and I trucked back to Vancouver Island to organize his service and to deal with the estate. The service was difficult at that time. We were still in somewhat of lockdowns, and you couldn't have past a certain number of people at the funeral, and dealing with government officials for the estate was complicated. Even just getting appointments at the bank was complicated. We got through Christmas that year. It was a sad Christmas because families couldn't get together, and so it felt really weird. And the first week of January, my partner of 16 years decided that he wanted to go separate ways, and all of a sudden, at the age of 59, I became single. Wow, you guys, I was not really expecting that. All of a sudden, I had to go through the sale of a home that I loved, look for a new home. I ended up buying a new townhouse. Well, when I say new, it's relative. It was built in 1979, and it had never seen any kind of improvement. So I also had to try and find a contractor who would help me do a gut renovation, again, during what was still somewhat of a lockdown situation. And if you can all remember, trying to find materials at that time was very difficult. I have to say, you guys, becoming single at the age of 59 just really weirded me out. I mean, I had all these ideas of what my life would look like, going forward. And that life always included my partner. And so my goals and the aspirations that I had included that person with me moving onwards in my life. And all of a sudden I'm single. And then all the negative thoughts hit, like, oh my goodness, I'm 59 years old, I'm single, I'm going to be alone forever. I'll become a cat lady. I might have 20 cats or something. Like, all these really silly, unproductive thoughts were running across my mind. And I had to really take a hold of myself and focus on what I needed to focus on to move forward. The concept of Stoicism that I subscribe to essentially has 3 aspects to it. The first one being acceptance, the second resilience, and the third is focus And basically, focus just means focusing on the things that you can control rather than expending energy on things that you can't control. And so when life handed me a bowl of lemons, the first thing I said to myself is, you have to deal. If you're interested in the topic of Stoicism, I recommend Ryan Holiday's books. This one here, Obstacle is the Way, is a really good one. And that book has really helped me over the years in dealing with situations that are challenging. I basically have 7 steps that I kind of go through when I get something like this. The first step is the acceptance of reality. Stoicism teaches the concept of amor fati, which basically means the love of fate. And accepting that the situation that just happened is real, it's now part of your life, begins the process of coming to terms with what happened. Don't avoid the situation. Face it head on. It is now a part of your reality. Number 2 is focus on what you can control. I think that we expend so much energy worrying and dealing with things that we can't really control. What I could control at that moment was the fact that I had to sell my house. I had to find and purchase a new one in order to make myself safe, in order to make myself feel stable again at some point. Dealing with the situation that is in front of you is more helpful than chasing something that is not going to be again. My grandma used to always say, deal with business, you can always cry later. And that sounds really harsh, but I think it's a good adage to live by. Step number 3 is the practice of virtue. And really all that means is deal with the situation with dignity, with kindness, and respect. You'll have to negotiate things with your partner when you break up. We had to go through the sale of a home and split up some assets in the home. And I think the process is smoother if you just try hard to get along, stay practical, focus on the things that matter. Don't focus on anger and the resentment. Again, those are steps that you can deal with later on once you are settled and safe. Number 4 is to reframe the situation. It's really hard to find something positive when a breakup happens, especially after a 16-year relationship. But the fact is, every situation has opportunities and has some new things out there for you to look forward to. And while I was going through this, I really focused on the fact that, hey, I get to buy a new home. I will get to set it up exactly the way I want to. Though I will be traveling the next part of my journey on my own, that doesn't mean that the journey is over. If anything, it's the opportunity to try some new things. And this is difficult when your emotions are high, but it definitely serves you well if you can focus on some aspect of positivity in something that's a complete mess. Step number 5 is to regulate your emotions. Crying, screaming, being angry, wanting to lash out at your ex-partner. Those emotions drain you of energy and they actually prevent you from moving forward and from dealing with the things that you need to deal with. I did not have the luxury of sitting there and brooding about life. I needed to get things done. I needed to get my house sold. I needed to find another house. The timeline was very short And the times were challenging. This was during lockdowns. Dealing with people was complicated because you had to mask up. You couldn't just go anywhere at any time. Even viewing new homes was complicated. You had to make an appointment. They only allowed so many people when the viewing was happening. So expend your energy on the practical and the pragmatic things, and don't waste your energy on sadness and crying and lashing out, because you will not move forward. Number 6 is the concept of memento mori, and really that's kind of focusing on our mortality. We only have so much time on this earth, and especially when you're in your 50s and 60s, you really actually do only have so much time left. And it's a positive thing to focus on the fact that life is short, so let's not make it sad. Look forward to the things ahead. Try and be positive about the opportunities, because it will make the journey to healing so much more successful for you. Finally, number 7 is to surround yourself with your community. Use your friends, family, your tribe of people to help you navigate through this challenging time. These are the people that you can use as a resource in order to successfully move ahead. In the end, clearly, I was able to deal with the situation. I'm in a really good place now. I enjoy being single. I enjoy the opportunities that single life brings to me. I love the fact that I have a home to myself. I can do whatever I want with it. But the trick is to get through that very difficult time. There's a really good quote by Marcus Aurelius, who is a great ancient philosopher. And essentially what it says is, when forced, as it seems, by circumstances into utter confusion, get a hold of yourself quickly. And I think that's the biggest lesson that I've learned throughout the process of having a few years that have been exceedingly challenging, have given and put forward a lot of change. And that is that if I can keep my emotions in check quickly and focus on the things that I can control, I seem to come out better in the end. If you found this information useful and have any questions or want me to cover any specific topics on my channel, please subscribe and leave your questions and comments down below. Also, if you can give me comments on things that I could potentially change in how I deliver my videos. For a newbie video person who's never actually done videos before, comments like that would be very helpful. I'll see you next week.